Welcome back to the Cribsiders. This is a Medscape video recap summary of one of our most recent podcast episodes.
Yeah, for those of you that don't know us, we are the Pediatric Medicine Podcast. We bring you leading experts, interviews, clinical pearls, practice-changing knowledge, and answering those lingering questions about core clinical topics in pediatric medicine.
All right, Justin, what do you got for us today, man?
This was a great episode, very timely, about RSV immunizations. And so this was actually a really great episode where our guest, Dr. Buddy Creech, talked not only about pediatric RSV immunizations, but also the adult immunizations, the new RSV vaccines in adults. And it was a collaborative effort, not just the pediatric Cribsiders podcast, but we partnered with the Curbsiders Internal Medicine podcast and also the IDSA podcast called Let's Talk ID. And we got to talk about all the different RSV immunizations across the lifespan.
Yeah, we had lots of synergy on this one. So what's the story on the new RSV immunizations?
Yeah, so, starting with pediatrics first, because we're the Cribsiders, that's our primary target audience, pediatrics. Bronchiolitis, one of the core pediatric topics we've done. One of our first episodes was on bronchiolitis. This is clearly something that has a major burden in pediatric patients. It's the number one cause of hospitalizations. We know it. RSV is the number one cause of bronchiolitis, but we haven't had that many ways to prevent RSV infections. The one tool that we had up until about this year was a monoclonal antibody, palivizumab, also known as Synagis. Now, Synagis, you may know as a pediatrician, can help prevent RSV, but it's a monthly injection. It's a monthly dose. There's confusing criteria for the high-risk patients it's been shown to help that have either been on oxygen for a while or have some type of congenital heart disease. And this is really the only tool that we've had in our toolbox until this year, where we have the new one, nirsevimab, also known as Beyfortus.
All right, so tell us what's so special about this nirsevimab or Beyfortus.
Yeah, so nirsevimab is still a monoclonal antibody like Synagis or like palivizumab, but it has a longer half-life. So rather than lasting, 20 days like palivizumab or Synagis, it lasts for 5 months. So it can be, a one-time injection for the entire bronchiolitis season. And it does this by targeting the pre-fusion F protein of the virus. So before it fuses with your cells, this monoclonal antibody can attach to the virus. And that's, really the big significant advantages that it has over the other option we have, palivizumab.
I guess the question is, it lasts longer, but does it work?
Right. So this is a huge question, and it turns out it does. There's a great study, the MELODY trial, that basically shows nirsevimab was associated with a 75% decrease in all medically attended lower respiratory tract infections, and that was for full-term kiddos. Those were otherwise healthy babies. Major significant decrease in medical attention. There was a trend towards decrease in hospitalization by 60%, although it was not quite statistically significant. But our expert, Dr. Buddy Creech, and really, the pediatric community felt like this data is so clear that it's beneficial that they immediately felt, this is something that we need to be giving our kiddos.
Awesome. So which kiddos should be getting this then?
Well, and that's the big story. And so the latest AAP recommendations basically say this data is so good that all children under the age of 8 months are indicated for nirsevimab. And for the high-risk kiddos that have, again, some of these risk factors of congenital heart disease or oxygen dependence, we go through all the various risk factors. They can be eligible up until 19 months.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, so this was like a big episode. We had collabs with the Curbsiders, our adult podcast. So we talked about adult vaccines, and why should us as pediatricians care about this?
Yeah, so this was a great question that Dr. Creech, I think, made a few great arguments. First and foremost, when adults aren't having RSV viruses, they're not going to transmit it to their children. And from just a public health benefit, this is something that can really help prevent RSV infections broadly. But there are 2 new adult vaccines, true vaccines, that have also, come out this year. One is GlaxoSmithKline's RSV vaccine that has an adjuvant, which makes the vaccine a little more potent, which maybe makes it work better, although there's not great evidence, but definitely maybe has some more side effects. But equally effective is Pfizer's vaccine, the Abrezvo, which does not have the adjuvant, and importantly is safe in pregnancy. So, from a pediatric podcast, this is actually incredibly important, because if you're a pregnant woman in your last trimester or approaching delivery, you can actually get the Pfizer RSV vaccine, and you'll pass on antibodies to protect your newborn from getting RSV bronchiolitis. And so this is another option to protect the pediatric population. Both vaccines in adults were shown to have about a 75% efficacy in reducing 2 or more symptoms. So in the adult population, these are shown to work quite well. We have a beautiful infographic that talks about the indications for each vaccine, the effectiveness, which ones are safe in pregnancy, and which ones their mechanisms. So a lot of great content to check out across the lifespan. Definitely worth a listen.